Coming up, 6 months under the new Trump administration, the highs, the lows, and what lies ahead. Our panel of experts weighs in. Plus, tensions escalate as Israel combats adversaries on every side. Are the mounting feuds creating a wedge with the U.S. as the Trump administration fights for peace in the region? And USA strong.
We've seen momentum unlike we have seen in probably a decade.
Recruitment numbers are up across the U.S. military. What's behind the growing enthusiasm? We explore all this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Six months into his second term, and President Trump is pushing forward with his agenda. Good evening in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder. The second Trump administration has already delivered some major moments, from an Oval Office showdown with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky to a high-profile Mideast tour and a very public feud with Elon Musk. The tariffs, the Iran nuclear strikes, NATO, and getting other countries to increase their defense spending. Several major Supreme Court victories that sided with the administration. A sweeping immigration overhaul and the best border numbers on record. The Epstein files and the passage of the big, beautiful bill, which enshrines Trump's tax cuts into permanent law. And that is just scratching the surface. Of course, more challenges lie ahead with a potential government shutdown, rising global tensions, and the 2026 midterms looming. All right, let's introduce our panel for tonight. Senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright and Nathan Gonzalez, publisher and editor of Inside Elections and a Faith Nation contributor. Gentlemen, welcome. So, Kelly, let's start with you and in your thoughts on this first 6 months of this new administration.
Wow. Does that settle it? It's been a while. Look, I've covered presidents in the past, never like this one, President 47. President Trump has been extremely busy these first 6 months in office, and his White House is celebrating historic successes and wins. In fact, over the weekend, Harrison Fields, who is the deputy press secretary, went on to state this publicly, that the president has delivered the most insightful and historical, significant presidency in the first 6 months. A lot of people would attest to that. And for me, as a member of the White House press corps, you have to keep your head on a swivel because this president is very active. He has a robust schedule. He continues to defy the odds and expectations that people may have had watching this. But it's historical to sit back and watch this and to be actively engaged in reporting on the developments out of this Trump White House.
Yeah, it is like drinking from a fire hydrant. We say that all the time. Nathan, you know, we scratched the surface a little bit with some of the bigger moments, some of the challenges, some of the big wins for the administration. How would you characterize these first 6 months?
I think this second Trump term, I think they've been very aggressive. And I think that they've been aggressive on multiple levels or in multiple arenas. I think they have dramatically tried to expand the power of the executive branch, whether it is contrary to the legislative branch or the court system. And I think that it's been a little bit rocky. I've been interested in the relationship between President Trump as a deal maker against even Republicans in Congress who are trying to hold to some conservative standards or some ideological standards. There's been some clashes there, but I think aggressive is the best word.
Yeah, Nathan, the polls, they're painting a little bit of a complicated picture. A new polling from CBS YouGov shows President Trump with just a 42% approval rating, 58% disapproving. When it comes to inflation, 64% of Americans say they don't like how he's handling it. What do these numbers tell you?
That poll is actually a little bit more pessimistic than the overall national polling average, but still a majority of Americans disapprove than approve of the job the president is doing. I think that is in contrast to the confidence that the administration has shown coming out of the 2024 election, winning, finishing ahead in the national popular vote, and saying that they have a mandate. But what these polls tell me is that what the president has been doing hasn't been popular, or at least it hasn't been popular yet. And so as these policies are implemented and take root, what is the end result, and how do voters feel about them when we get closer to the midterm elections? To me, that's a key question.
Yeah, and Jen, if I may, to add to that, it's also the messaging. A lot of people who have watched the president on these issues have said that the White House hasn't been as solid in messaging what it's done with tariffs and the economy, and they'll continue to watch the White House to see how that plays out in mainstream America, and then anticipating what Wall Street will say as well.
Yeah, the president, he's managed to quiet some of the outrage surrounding the Epstein files by going on offense against the Wall Street Journal, ordering a push for more transparency. Kelly, it's pretty clear the president is very frustrated about this, doesn't want to be talking about it, and it's taking away from some of the wins that they've had in recent weeks.
Well, you're right, and it has troubled the president. He does not like it, which is why he took out a $10 billion lawsuit against Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch, someone that he's known for a very long time, because of the fact that the Wall Street Journal issued a report about the president allegedly authoring a letter and signing a body letter with some nude photo. The president is not happy about that at all. The president would like to get beyond this, and that is what he's trying to do in getting the transparency up and running. But will it appeal to his base, which has been divided over this issue? Marjorie Taylor Greene still on the attack, saying the president should not dangle red meat in front of his supporters because they will grow to a point that they become dissatisfied with him.
Yeah, we should mention the Wall Street Journal. The White House removed the Wall Street Journal from its press pool for its upcoming weekend trip to Scotland in retaliation for that report that it put out. Gentlemen, let's talk about Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and some newly declassified documents. She says there's overwhelming evidence the Obama administration sabotaged the incoming Trump administration back in 2016 by manufacturing intelligence that would then lay the groundwork for the years-long Trump-Russia collusion probe. Gabbard called it a treasonous conspiracy. Nathan, your thoughts on that, and what do you think we'll see come of this?
These are big allegations, right? These are big words. I mean, these are words that have meaning. Treason. I think the key is to watch the courts, watch what happens. Does the administration arrest or officially charge individuals that they're talking about? Because what we've seen in the past, whether it's regarding the 2020 elections or even some immigration cases, what is being said rhetorically by either members of the administration or Republicans in general, and what's being said backed with evidence in court cases is sometimes very different. So watch for the evidence that is put into the court system to see, I think, what this administration really has on past administrations.
Yeah, I don't think this story is going to be going away. I do think we'll see an investigation. All right, gentlemen, we'll leave it there for tonight. Nathan and Kelly, thank you very much. Well, as political pressure mounts here at home, a new flashpoint in the Gaza War. Israeli ground troops have entered central Gaza for the first time, moving into Deir al-Balah, an area aid groups say has been a humanitarian hub. Israel believes Hamas may be holding hostages there, including some of the 50 still missing. The move has sparked international outrage, with nearly 24 countries now demanding an end to the war. The UN is also accusing Israel of firing on a crowd of seeking food over the weekend. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says at least 85 people were killed. Israel says it opened fire on Palestinians who posed a threat and accuses Hamas of creating chaos. Jerusalem is also disputing the death toll. Okay, and for more on this, let's bring in Michael OHanland, Senior Fellow and Director of Research in Foreign Policy at the Brookings Institution. Michael, welcome. So we're seeing this ongoing chaos surrounding the aid distribution in Gaza. It didn't work under UN supervision. The GHF is having issues, and Hamas, still causing problems there. With so many players, Michael, and just a lot of mistrust, do you see any real solution to the Gaza aid crisis?
Hi, Jenna. Well, yes, I think there are ways that could be modified. There are two ideas in particular, that one is more of a political or big picture idea, the other is more technological. But the big picture idea is that I think Israel needs to accept that even though no Hamas leadership should ever be dealt with again or given any kind of standing, Nonetheless, you cannot kill your way out of a terrorist movement. And we learned that with Al-Qaeda. We wanted, certainly after 9/11, every Al-Qaeda member dead. But after a few years, we realized that decapitating the leadership and preventing the movement from restarting, those were the achievable goals. And that if you kept after trying to kill each and every one of a person who might call themselves Al-Qaeda, that you were just going to fight forever and perhaps even make the problem worse. So at a conceptual level, I think Israel needs to distinguish between defeating the leadership and, down several levels, not just top leadership, which they've already done, and defeating or killing every single member, which is unrealistic.
Yeah.
At the technological and practical level, I think Israel can start to try to create zones of safety within Gaza that essentially use biometric indicators and controlled access points to try to gradually make sure that everyone is basically known not to be an established Hamas figure. And then to try to, again, create sort of from the ground up a safe zone and do it neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, try to make that a positive vision for how safety can be restored and also the sustenance of the Palestinian people can be enhanced.
So Michael, we reported Israel's taking quite a bit of heat from some more unexpected sources. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee called a West Bank church arson an act of terror, and he also condemned the killing of a Palestinian American. The White House is demanding answers after a strike on Gaza's only Catholic church. Michael, do you see a shift in support from allies like the U.S. toward Israel?
Yes, absolutely. I think that if we compare over the last couple of years, and we all understand why Israel felt it needed to react very, very robustly after October 7th, 2023, a heinous day, a tragic day, a day that sealed Hamas's fate. And I think Israel's been justified in trying to destroy the leadership and infrastructure of the movement. But the Biden administration, which was portrayed as being somehow softer on its support for Israel than President Trump, although I don't know if that's true, but the Biden administration didn't even make these kinds of statements very often in the first months following October 2023. President Trump tried to be, very categorical in supporting Israel and certainly wanted to try to win Jewish American and evangelical votes accordingly, and then seemed to have a rapport with Benjamin Netanyahu in the early going. But that accord seems to have frayed, even though they collaborated on the Iran operation. Mm-hmm. And it is fascinating to watch these comments because Mike Huckabee is a good man. He's on the ground and he understands the importance of protecting innocent human life. I don't think Israelis are taking Palestinian lives on purpose, mm-hmm. but I think they have become a bit callous in their tactics. And I think criticism, therefore, is increasingly appropriate. It probably should have begun a long time ago. But there are ways for Israel to protect itself and still keep more Palestinians alive.
Okay, Michael OHanland with the Brookings Institution. Always good to see you, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And coming up, a surge of people joining the U.S. military. What's behind the rise of recruits? That story and more next on Faith Nation. Welcome back. The U.S. military is seeing a major turnaround in recruiting, with all 6 branches meeting or exceeding current goals. Now the Pentagon wants to seize on that momentum and ensure America's fighting force remains strong and ready. CBN National Security Correspondent Caitlin Burke brings us the story.
After years of falling short of the target and growing concern over the future, military recruiters are finally seeing a surge, not just in interest, but enlistments.
We've seen momentum unlike we have seen in probably a decade.
This year, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force all meeting recruiting goals months ahead of time. The Marines and Coast Guard remain on track to hit theirs as well.
Enthusiasm to serve is at all-time highs. Since November 5th, 2024, the U.S. military has seen the highest recruiting percentage of mission achieved in 30 years.
Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell leads a recruitment task force with the mission to continue removing recruiting obstacles and build on current momentum.
How do we set the conditions here culturally in this country to have more kids want to serve the country and see it as a viable career path?
Various factors appear to be responsible for this welcome growth. They range from modernization efforts to consecutive increases in military pay, plus new programs aimed at helping prepare prospective enlistees for service. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also attributes the turnaround to a change in leadership.
Under the previous administration, they lowered the recruiting goals so they could look like they were filling the ranks, but they actually couldn't even meet the lowered recruiting goals. And this administration, with higher recruiting goals, we're beating them 4 to 5 months ahead of time because the American people want to serve.
Hegseth argues past recruiting struggles resulted from what he calls a weak and woke agenda under the Biden administration. He's pledging a reset, one that puts the warfighter first and returns the military's focus to strength, discipline, and mission readiness. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Caitlin. Well, a mission to make America healthy again. Why the head of Health and Human Services is targeting artificial food dyes and what it means for your trips to the grocery store. Stay tuned. Make America healthy again. That is the aim of HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. His first target, eliminating artificial food dyes. While health experts agree it is a good move, some say it could create a false sense of security. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson explains.
This year, major companies like Kraft Heinz, General Mills, and PepsiCo have stated they will voluntarily remove all artificial dyes from their products within the next 2 years, replacing them with natural colors. Meanwhile, several states are joining the effort to restrict these ingredients with the same time frame. The Food and Drug Administration is also doing its part by banning the synthetic red dye 3 by 2027, while approving 3 new natural food colors.
This administration is not interested in continuing down the path of doing the same old things as we watch our nation's children get sicker.
Some studies suggest a link between artificial food dyes and neurobehavioral issues in children, including hyperactivity and problems paying attention.
The magic related to color, it all happens right here.
Sensient Technologies in St. Louis makes natural food colors using things like beets, turmeric, and carrots. It's seeing a surge in orders, which means more time will be needed to meet the demand.
Tens of millions of pounds of these products need to be grown, pulled out of the ground, extract the color from them.
While virtually all health experts agree the idea of processed food companies getting rid of artificial dyes is a good one, many see it as a brilliant marketing move if it convinces consumers that no synthetic dyes equals healthy products.
Taking artificial dyes out of Skittles is still going to leave you with Skittles. And so one of my concerns is that what if that puts sort of a halo of health on Skittles now that they have something other than artificial dyes?
Author Michael Moss investigated many processed foods and believes the amount of sugar companies put into their products is far more dangerous than the synthetic colors.
Sugar they call the bliss point because they work up formulas. They call this food engineering to achieve the perfect amount of sweetness in products. They've marched around the store adding sugar, engineering bliss points to things that never used to be sweet before.
Products like yogurt, bread, and pasta sauce.
What we're really doing with this is a magician's trick. It's look over there, and these food dyes are the troublemaker when, in fact, the actual trouble is in these processed foods themselves.
As a physician, Dr. Stephen Gundry says companies' use of the chemical glyphosate on almost all conventionally grown grains scares him.
So they found out that they could spray normal crops, normal wheat, normal oats, normal corn, normal soybeans with glyphosate and kill it so that they can have their giant combines, their harvesters, on a field on a particular date.
The International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. Since then, the product's parent company has spent approximately $11 billion settling lawsuits over the cancer allegation. The chemical has also been leaked to leaky gut, which can cause migraines, fatigue, and autoimmune diseases, according to Gundry.
So glyphosate was discovered by Monsanto Corporation in the 1970s, and it was actually patented not as a weed killer, not as an herbicide, but as an antibiotic. And that should raise our eyebrows, number one.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says eliminating artificial dyes is just the beginning of his fight against the processed food industry. Others predict a short fight ending in defeat, largely because of the industry's influence through campaign contributions, economic impact, and political power.
The problem with fighting it from RFK's standpoint is that Congress, which eventually makes the laws, has an interest in monetarily supporting their campaigns.
Frankly, I think he's at the wrong agency, because the vast power to regulate and change our eating habits lies not at HHS, Department of Health and Human Services. It lies with the Agriculture Department. And by and large, the Agriculture Department is controlled and dominated by this handful of processed food companies.
So even with no artificial dyes, health experts advise staying away from processed foods and going the natural way, even if it takes time to convert those around the table.
That if you serve plain steamed broccoli to your kids 20 times, by the 21st time, they may actually like it. And it worked in our family. My boys are now 25 and 20. And I tell you, even today, they come over and they're asking for plain steamed broccoli.
Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Finally tonight, a 90-year-old great-grandfather says he loves going to school, and so do the kids he teaches. Silas Manspeaker is a former basketball player and member of the Buffalo State College Athletic Hall of Fame. But he's perhaps most well-known at the Monarch School, a nonprofit in San Diego, serving kids with housing instability. For the past 15 years, Coach Si spends his time teaching sports, math, and reading to children from kindergarten on.
The children don't have a lot of fun in their life when they first come here. And they're scared, they're nervous. And my job really is to keep them happy, safe.
And Coach Si says he planned on retiring last year until he met the class of kindergartners and decided to give it one more year. He's got a great smile. Great job, Coach Si. All right, that's going to do it for Faith Nation this evening. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.